Hey everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you are tuned into the review of Family or Fiancé Season 1, Episode 3. So this episode was the pure embodiment of what makes this show so great. I think the way that they addressed concerns and came together was so beautifully executed, and we got to see like a real behind the scenes of what a lot of families are kind of going through. The couple this week is Falasha and Chris. I don't recall how long they have been together, but I do know they've been engaged for at least 2 years. Falasha has a child from a previous relationship, and Chris is all in with her, loves her as his own. They have a really good relationship. A lot of what seems to be their issue is the lack of support from certain family members, more specifically Chris. Chris's mother is not on board for the relationship. So we see the two families come together for the 3-day weekend to kind of go through the processes. We see Falasha and Chris meet with Tracy, the relationship expert on the show, where she gives them the task of playing a game of 20 questions where they can ask each other whatever for Chris's side, and for Falasha to go shopping for authentic African gear because Chris's family is from Ghana, and that's a way for her to bond with the mother because the mother is really like the key component here. So on her side, we see that her brother comes, her mother, and a friend, and on his side, we see his mother come, his uncle, and his sister. His uncle plays a very significant role because his father's not in the picture. They don't really go into detail where he is, but he's not in the picture. And his uncle really plays a significant father role for him. And what I love about seeing Chris is he was very open to growth, open to be taught, and there's a lot of cultural significance in this dynamic, and a lot of cultural there's a proud aspect of this culture. So if you watch this episode, you'll see, things go back to the cultural way of how things are supposed to be, and his mother is very much like that. And so you'll see when she goes through the house and she's talking about, oh, this is how it should be, or this would take so long to clean, and you'll see Falasha say, well, I wouldn't do that, I'd hire somebody, and she's like, no, you have to do it. So there's these expectations of what a wife should be, what a woman should be. And we also find that Chris's mother doesn't really know how to be number two, and I think that's the greatest theme of this whole episode. You see, he says something about, oh, this is the house I bought my, soon-to-be wife, and she says, well, you should have bought me one first. I'm first. So she doesn't understand that dynamic, or, well, she probably understands it. She's just not interested in it right now. And that's what we see. A lot of the struggle of letting her son go, and a lot of the struggle of her son learning to assert himself as a grown man, because we see this a lot in a mother-son dynamic, especially sons from single homes. So really the mother-son dynamic from a single home perspective is a lot stronger, because that son tends to often fulfill the role of companionship, which should be left for, a significant other. But he fulfills the role of companionship in the way that a son can, obviously. And it becomes very hard to let somebody else get into that space. So that's something that we've seen time and time again, but we're seeing that with Chris's mother. And the central thing with Chris that people are concerned about are his lack of maturity. And so I loved watching the dynamic, because Chris kind of gets upset because his mother brings up an old issue that happened literally like 4 years ago. He gets upset, he gets somewhat explosive, and he kind of walks out because he feels like she's holding on to these things only to have a reason to not give her blessing. And we see Falasha get upset, and she kind of starts crying. What I enjoyed seeing about all of them is, though, I think Chris's explosion was a little disrespectful. I mean, he got a little elevated, but nobody else got really disrespectful, and even he knew to exit stage left before it got even worse. And I think that he wouldn't have even done that just because of the dynamic with his mother. We watch Falasha and his mom go to the store where they're shopping. Her sister goes as well, and they kind of discuss their dynamic, and Falasha's sharing, there's a lot of expectations on me. Even if he does something, you expect me to change it. And the mother's giving mixed signals, because she's saying, no, it's about my son. He needs to be respectful, he needs to be appropriate, he needs to be mature. But then she is projecting what her son does and doesn't do, and how it's rectified on her. And also we hear Falasha say, hey, I'm trying, meet me halfway. When you were sick, I called you all the time. A few weeks ago, I was sick. I didn't hear from you. You can tell she's really hurt, because she really wants to be well received by his mother. And she, from the background and from what we've heard, nothing significant has even happened to why that isn't it. So we see his mother just being an overprotective helicopter mom, not realizing that this cute little Chris that she saw 20 years ago is no longer this cute little Chris. He's a grown man, and it's time for him to move on. One of the best parts of this episode that I saw was when they were meeting with Tracy, and he was saying essentially, like, my mom needs to learn how to let go. And even his sister says that. He has a one-on-one with his sister, and his sister is upset because she feels like everyone looks at her mom in a negative way, but really her mom is a great person, but she's just kind of struggling with letting him go. And so Chris says that he feels that, his mom kind of lacks the maturity, and any one of us saying that about our parents would be nervous to say so, but it might be real. It might be the reality. His mom lacks the maturity to really recognize that she has to get out of the way, that she can't be number one, and that she has to learn to trust him. And she may not always know what's best. I know that's hard for parents to hear, but there may be a time where you're not on point with what you're saying. A lot of times our parents are, but you also have to learn to live your life and learn to make your own mistakes and learn to follow your gut instinct. There's a lot of people whose parents didn't want them together, and they've gone on to have long, happy lives. So your parents don't basically give the green light on everything that's right. But that's very hard for us as people to conceptualize, because our parents are always have our best interest, and for the most part, a lot of times they're right. So he was kind of displaying to Dr. Tracy that he feels like his mother kind of lacks the maturity to just let him be and let him recognize that he knows how to make the right decisions and trust him enough. And so Tracy says, okay, you got to tell your mom that. And so in true African culture, and a lot of island people are like that, there's just certain things you just don't say to your parents. And he says, no, she will kill me. Like, I will die if I say that to her. And I really love that she said, then die. And she tied it up so beautifully by saying, it's not you dying, it's the little boy in you dying. It's the little boy in you that doesn't know how to say XYZ to your mom, but she has to hear that so that the man can live. And that was perfect. She couldn't have wrapped it up any better than that. It was perfect. And we see them later on in the episode have a sidebar conversation about what he wants, and she starts out with it. Falasha starts out, and they're together as a couple talking to the mom, and then she exits stage left, and they have a conversation. And essentially the mom is like still harping on respect and lack of maturity. Nothing that's like, we keep hearing these words, but like nothing that's really like a red flag to me. So I'm like, okay, either there's something we don't know, or mom is just unable to let go. And so he basically kind of lays it all on the table. Like, I can't make you feel any kind of way. I can't force you to do anything, and I can't be in charge of how you feel. And your blessing is very important, but so is this relationship. And I love that he said, she's going to be my number one. Moms have to hear that, especially from single homes, because they don't have a spouse to they know it, but they don't have a spouse to mirror that. Like when somebody has a spouse, then if somebody else is number one in your kid's life, they can mirror that because, oh, my spouse is number one. But when it's just them, they don't really do well with that. So I'm glad that he said it, because it was just like, you have to face the music. Like, you're not going to hold that position forever, and you're not meant to. However, you have a significance that can never be replaced. You're always my mom. I'm never gonna not love you. I'm never gonna throw you away. I'm never gonna do these things. And I feel like she needed to hear, because she feels like her position is threatened. She may not admit that, but she does. And the thing is, they don't play the same role. Like, Dads and husbands don't play the same role. Mothers and wives don't play the same role. So there's room for everyone. So I'm glad that he said that. Eventually we see, you know, everyone get together and they give their blessing. I loved that he had that connection, and his uncle said, you know, I love your spirit of being able to grow and to learn and to be taught, because that's something that we will always need, the ability to receive and to be taught, because we're forever learning. Like, life is evolutionary and we will continue to evolve. And so him allowing him to be taught and to learn manhood and the things that he just won't know and hasn't even seen enough to mimic was like a great thing. And we watch all of them really say, you know, after this weekend, because I initially had some concerns, everyone across the board, after this weekend, I feel comfortable in making this a family. And his mom even said, you know, I see that he will be somewhere safe. And that's like what the whole thing is about, really voicing your concerns. Let's work through this. Let's talk through this. Let's make some changes and get to a place of solution. And so we watched them all get their blessings. All 6 of them gave their blessings, and it really came down to mom. And she did it with contingencies, but she did nonetheless. And they got married at the same church that they met. And, you know, I think the mom did a beautiful thing in saying to the daughter, you're not my daughter-in-law, but you're my daughter in love, and that I've received you into the family. That's something that she really wanted, and that's something that she got. So I thought that this was great. I thought that this was like perfect. It was exactly what it needed to be. Nothing is perfect. Let's talk about some of the stuff that sucks, but let's get to, you know, the foundation of things. Let's really have conversations that aren't really that comfortable, but that need to be had. Let's listen to each other. Let's be open. And then let's move on and create a beautiful future and a beautiful family. Because now all of these people who came on different sides are all on the same side, because now they're a unit, because they did get married. So that is episode 3. Let me know what you guys thought. I thought it was a great episode. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. Don't forget to click subscribe, and don't forget to click the notification button so you can be the first to find out when I post these videos. Everyone have a great week.